discussion on House Amendment 1. Gentleman from St. Charles, for Mr. Reyes.
I'd like to inquire of the amendment maker.
Does the gentleman from Jacksonville?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Nickerson.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Okay, let's see if I can figure out what all you got going on here. So you've stripped the bill completely clean, which I would contend is blatantly unconstitutional. You're adding a provision to require the PSC to do a 7-year study.
No, you're looking at the wrong amendment.
Oh. Are we on the one where you're asking the speaker to put together a 7-year?
Gentlemen, the board has 13H.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to. All right. There's been so many revisions, so many changes, so many new things dropped. Okay, gentlemen. So, essentially, what are you doing here?
Essentially, what we're doing is, as we promised a week or so ago when 240 passed, we are offering the removal of the debt tracker.
Who removes the we?
Me.
Okay. Gentlemen, so you're talking about taking language out of a bill that was heard in the Senate in a committee, voted out, went to the Senate floor, heavily debated, voted out, sent to the House Utilities Committee, which you happen to serve on and I happen to chair, voted out of that committee. I think the vote was 20-2, with only one Republican and one Democrat voting no. In fact, gentlemen, didn't you vote for it? Come out of committee?
I did.
Was there some deal made back then that I didn't know about?
I understood at the time that this debt tracker, which a lot of people had trouble with, was going to be cleaned up.
What's the problem with the debt tracker?
It is, I think it takes the incentive away from gas companies from actually going after their debt. It allows them to build into future.
What are they going after, gentlemen?
Money that's owed them, and they should go after.
Money owed them by who? Which rate class?
By their users.
By which rate class?
If it's owed.
So you don't even know?
If it's owed.
Okay. So since this debt that we're trying to true up and give an accurate number of, which only applies to the residential ratepayers, all right? Which right now is being over-collected, has for the last 4 years to the tune of now millions of dollars. But because under the current regulatory structure, the gas company cannot remit it back to that assessment. So the residential ratepayers just opt that money. What this provision would do is allow at each rate case a true-up of those numbers so that you don't have to worry about analyzing historical data. You set the assessment at exactly what that number is. Not higher, not lower. If there's been an over-collection, the money goes back to that assessment, back to the residential ratepayers. If there's been an under-collection, that money comes out of that assessment so that the provider is made whole. It is a consumer protection. Now, once again, explain to me why you want this out of a bill that you voted for.
Last week, when this House voted on 240, it was stated that this would be taken out. That's how it got many of the votes it got.
I don't believe you.
That's not important.
I don't believe you. Do you know for the first time in 7 years of serving in this body, I was denied access to that whip count, that whip list, as the House sponsor of the same bill, as the committee chairman that this bill comes through, as a caucus position to move regulatory reform and start crafting a better energy future for Missouri. I was denied access to that list to see who I needed to go talk to find out why I lost all these votes out when no one came to me and said they weren't voting for the bill. No one!
Apparently somebody did.
Excuse me, there was two. Mr. Speaker, to speak on the amendment. Proceed, gentlemen. Mr. Speaker, it should fall easily on anyone's ear in this chamber, because we've all heard it time and time again as we've come up through our lives in public service. Power can corrupt, and absolute power can corrupt absolutely. pass that anyway, if you took it times 24 members of the Utilities Committee, and if you consider the standing room only amount of people in the room to listen to testimony on this bill, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of vetting. And this bill comes out of the Senate, passed all the way through, comes over to the House, comes to the Utilities Committee, and comes out of that committee 20-2. And now, because of interests that I will tell you are outside this chamber right now, there's been a deal cut behind the chairman's back, behind the sponsor's back, to gut out the consumer protection that's built into this bill to make sure that residential ratepayers are made whole. Mr. Speaker, that's not what I came to this body for, and dare I say I don't think anyone else did either. But Mr. Speaker, from the day I started 17 years ago to the day I'm standing before you, I've always tried to be an honest broker. I've always tried to work for good public policy, and I've never let this system corrupt me. And today I'm seeing this system being corrupted by a policy, by a standard, by a position that was developed through our caucus many, many months ago. And because one little entity has decided they don't like something that doesn't even affect them. This only affects residential ratepayers. It doesn't affect the industrials. But because they all of a sudden have some heartburn, it's coming out. Mr. Speaker, that's wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, Chairman, Vice Chairman, ranking minority members, look what's going on. Is this where you want this process to go? Because if so, what are you doing? I don't like wasting my time, and I hate it when my committee wastes their time. And I already know who my detractors are in this room. In fact, I've written down a few names on a piece of paper just to see who gets up and tries to tell you I'm completely wrong. And I'll bet you they're on here. I'm tired of this. I didn't come here for this. And I'm not going to stand for this. And you should either. And Mr. Chairman, if I get a 5-member standing, just 5 members standing, I would like a roll call on this vote. There was already a written request, but you'll have a roll call. Thank you, Douglas.
Further discussion on House Amendment 1. Gentleman from Butler for Order Reps.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speak in favor of the amendment.
Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Utilities Chair, gentleman from the Funderburk District, is right about the fact that the Utilities Committee vetted this issue. And he knows, and he and I have had lengthy discussions about our disagreement over some of the provisions that the committee passed out. What he fails to mention to the body, or remind the body of, is that we had a vote on this House floor on the House version of the gas access bill. I offered an amendment to that bill to remove the dead tracker provision. I believe that amendment passed with over 112 votes. The idea of the dead tracker is something that this body acted on. Not outside interest, not anything else. The only reason that we are going through the process we are on this bill was to try to avoid people in the Senate who wanted to kill the entire bill from getting another crack at doing that. And if we had offered the very same amendment on the Senate bill that we did on the House bill, it would have gone back to the Senate, and the entire bill likely would have died. That's why this amendment's being offered. And that's why I got up last week and assured the members of this body that if they were concerned about the bad debt provision, as over 100 members were when we had the House version of the bill, that they could feel comfortable supporting the bill. This amendment does nothing more than make this body, the House of Representatives' position, consistent with where it was when we passed the House version of the gas issues. And I urge the body to support the amendment.